Okay, well, I'd like to welcome everybody. We're going to do a little bit of poker. We've actually got to the point, everybody's already kind of had the rules explained to them, which is great. But just as a quick refresher, Kevin, how does poker work?
So we're all gonna read the story up here on planningpoker.com that Tim set up, and we're gonna read it, see if we have any questions, discuss it, and once everybody feels like they have a good, solid idea of what it is, we put down our card. Tim's gonna flip them, and if we are in consensus, then that's the story points that are gonna be assigned to that. If not, we discuss why we think we pointed the way we did, and then we vote again, and we keep doing that until we get all the same number.
Wonderful. Okay, so here's Living Relatives track. This is the first story. So this basically is the first chunk of work in our backlog after all of our preparatory stuff that needs to be done. And I've already kind of got a description up there for you guys to take a look at. But in a nutshell, we want to be able to track our living relatives first, so that we can get their information in our tree, because they're not going to be in any online database, but it will allow us to get some stories from them to be able to start to fill out the genealogy later as we go. So you always start with people who are alive. So go ahead and turn in your cards for how big you think this is going to be. The Fibonacci sequence is used below. The blue cards usually represent stuff we can do in this sprint. If you're turning in green cards, it's because you think that the project is so large that we need to split it up into smaller pieces. All right. So here's what we got. I had a 3, Kevin had a 2, Junior. What?
Me, that's John.
John. John had 1. Sean had 2, and Eric had 1. All right, so I guess I'm weird because I picked a 3. I just thought it would be really hard sometimes to get a hold of those relatives, and talking to them is a little bit difficult, but that's why I had it a little higher. So, what makes it so low for you guys?
I think for the two that I put down, it really just depends on the average size of a family that we're asking people to contact. If our target audience is LDS, then typically those families are larger, and so I figured they would need a little bit of time to reach out to extended family. But on the flip side of that, LDS families tend to be very close in the immediate family category, so I figured that would already be knowledge that would be pretty accessible. So I just went right in the middle and just went with a 2.
Okay. And then John and Eric, you guys got 1s in the mix.
Yeah, I was thinking as far as like having a lot of the relatives who are alive. I have a lot of good relationships with both sides of my family, so actually getting that type of information wouldn't be that difficult. So whether it be talking in person, on the phone, emailing, I believe it would be a 1. Though there are some relatives that I am not so close, so I'm actually kind of almost steering to maybe go at it to.
Okay. All right. Well, judging by kind of how I feel the rest of the project to go, maybe 3 was a little high. The software we're using has already kind of put everything down to the 2. It averaged it all out and rounded up. So does everybody agree that 2 is probably about where this should be?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Next story. Second generation auxiliary lines to present. In a nutshell, this is the second generation on your chart. These are people who, some might be living, but some have also passed. But from living relatives, you've already fleshed out that part. So at this point, we just need to start getting all of those second generation relatives tracked up to today. So your grandparents and whatever. All right.
All right, I'll do 3. So this is second generation. So you're just assuming that these people, that your first generation is there to give you information. Some families can be a lot more complex, and story-wise, like family-wise. So that's why I was thinking it's going to be a little harder than doing your living relatives, because you can actually call them. But yeah, just sometimes information can be limited on those who have already passed. But that's why I did a 3.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I guess it really kind of depends on the size of families. Some grandparents don't have great big families. It's not like everybody has all tons of great uncles and things. And most of the time, you've already heard of these folks, even if they've passed. So, I mean, a lot of people can fill out a lot of this information just out of the top of their head. So I knocked it down a little bit because some of this is stuff most people still know, at least a little bit.
So I went for one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I could agree. It probably, but living relatives you can at least talk to. I don't know some of my second generation stuff off the top of my, like I would have to do some research on that.
Yeah.
But, sorry, go ahead.
You're good. I went with the 1, but after hearing you guys talk, I think I might be leaning close to the 2. And the only reason why I wouldn't go 3 is because you could do this task simultaneously. Like the efforts will cross paths with the living relatives tract. So you're going to be getting information on living relatives, like, hey, Uncle Joey, where were you born? Or, like, what's your birthday and stuff. And then you can just ask them while you're on the phone, like, hey, I'm also going back to, like, grandparents. Can you give me some info on whoever? And so that's why maybe, like, going 2 would be better, because you probably could get this one done pretty quickly after the first task.
This is
what do you guys think?
But that's assuming that both of these will be in the same sprint. So
correct.
So just, if something was to happen that this would be a separate, complete, isolated story, what would you point at? That would be the question.
Okay. Well, we've deliberated a little bit. I'm actually going to reset the cards on this one. Go ahead and pick a new card and throw it out there, and we'll compare the result. All right. Looks like it's changed slightly. So we're still averaging about a 2. Does this sound okay to everybody?
I agree.
Is there any other concerns that you have, John, that make it seem like a bigger task?
No, I think 2 is really good. I agree with what Sean said about how if you're working on 1, you can actually do simultaneous investigation, you could say, with the relatives.
Okay.
And I also see the point with Eric, where if it's separate, like a separate sprint, how it can be a little bit more daunting. So I'm willing to go to it too.
All right. So that's what we got so far. Let's move on to the next story real quick. Do keep in mind, like Kevin pointed out, these are all things we're supposed to be able to get done in a single sprint. And we've got a couple of really low numbers here. So it could end up getting really packed. Let's see. The next one, direct line to 8th generation. So that's basically going from now straight through your parents, great-grandparents, or great-great-grandparents, all the way down to the 8th generation. Expect to encounter a few problems with information here and there. I mean, you may only have 16 or so names that you need to pull out as far as quantity, but you're going to be reaching pretty deep. So it might require a little bit of extra work there. Okay. So, wow, let's see. John, 8. What's up?
I don't know. I just kind of figured with, if you didn't have like a strong LDS background, or if there wasn't a lot done, it might be really, really tough to get to that pinnacle.
Yeah.
And doing a lot of deep research. I mean, 5 could be doable for sure. 8 just felt right. And also 8 generations.
I agree with that, Sean. I really do. I was doing some of my genealogy work the other day in preparation for this, just to see what to anticipate.
Right.
And I'm the only LDS person in my family, and my family loves the idea of genealogy, but doesn't put it into practice. And so my mom actually has, her mother is from Manila, and she came over during World War II.
Okay.
And Manila itself was like pretty badly messed up during the war. And so a lot of records and history and family homes and stuff were burned, and my family's part of that. So I can't even get back past my great grandmother on my maternal side. And so I totally get that. And so that significantly narrows my ability to go all the way back 8 generations in a specific direction.
Gotcha.
And then my maternal grandfather is from England, and his records are all messed up. So I totally agree with you that an 8 for someone like me is pretty sensible. So I back you up on that. The only reason why I picked the 5 is because most of the people that attend the church that will be participating aren't in my position. Like I think of an extreme dramatic case of it. But we can't judge based on, just stereotyping them alone. We have to go with the benefit of the doubt, maybe go higher. So I agree with you. I might change to 8, depending on what everyone else says.
All right. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, we are running into a project where people may have vastly different experiences at where they're at. For my family, I mean, personally, we've already got it tracked that far back in a direct line. It's part of our heritage. We already kind of understand who was responsible for getting the family into the church and where they moved from. Which is kind of nice that it's there, but I know that not everybody's done that either. So I thought 5 is okay. That's significantly tough for people who haven't already done that deep of a dive. And since the scope is so narrow, again, you're coming up with 16 names, right? Just grandma and grandpa all the way back. So I mean, you're not digging for everyone yet. You're just trying to make sure that you can, I don't know, kind of figure out where you might be blocked if possible. You mentioned a couple of things that pop up for you, Sean, that you discovered doing genealogy like this, and I think that's kind of why it rates as a 5 and not lower. And definitely for some people it's an 8. I'm looking here at the poker score, and it's generalized it up to 8, which... and it's decided that it's now a big deal. Eric, what you thinking, man?
Yeah, my thoughts was going off the first 2 that we did. I think we'd have a pretty good base. That was just my thought. If we were able to do good on those first 2, I thought we'd have a pretty decent base on to get to the 8th. But like you guys are saying, it kind of swayed me that it, because like what Tim said, it's. In my family, we had a lot of genealogy work already done, and so it didn't. But then hearing about Sean and everything else, kind of swayed me to actually want to go to like a 5. But I just thought with the base that we already would have had, I thought it'd be difficult. But I think I don't know. That was just my thought.
Well, yeah, that's not so bad. It's just keep in mind, like with an 8-generation genealogy chart, if you're generalizing each generation being about every 18 to 20 years, which grow and shrink depending on the era in which the generation was had, you're looking at roughly 160 years of history. Which is far back, but not so far back that people aren't writing things down, that countries aren't taking census data, that... that's one of the reasons why 8 generations is a doable thing, is because you start to have those journals and stuff. People are becoming more educated overall. It's not super uncommon to learn how to basically read and write in the United States.
Agreed. I think a 5 is a good compromise, all things considered. I don't know.
Do we want to revote?
All right. Let's do it. I call for a recount.
Hanging chance.
Hey! All right. So, just winging it here on our velocity. I set our velocity at 10, but we kind of got to 9, where it may be a little harder for some and a little easier for some. That seems to me like a pretty good set of work to do in a sprint. How's everybody thinking about that?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd rather go under and then pull something else in if we have extra time than go over and not meet it. So
Okay. Well, awesome. So that is sprint poker, scrum poker. Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
No.
Sweet. All right. Then I'll go ahead and close it out. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tim.